Hello and welcome. I am Laji Akeredoluale. Tonight, Nigeria Immigration Service testifies against Justice of the Supreme Court Sylvester Ngwuta, accuses him of using 2 international passports. No word on the $25 billion NNPC contract scandal as President Buhari meets both the Minister of State for Petroleum and the NNPC's GMD. 760 Boko Haram suspects cleared by the Nigerian Army handed over to the Borno State government for rehabilitation and reintegration. And uncertainty over Iran nuclear deal as US President Donald Trump gets set to announce his next step on the agreement.
And on business news tonight, European Union seeks stronger economic partnership with Nigeria through information technology development.
On sports news, Super Eagles of Nigeria are 1 win away from qualification for Russia 2018 FIFA World Cup.
And from Abuja, police arrest 3 suspects over the murder of a University of Benin lecturer as PDP and APC trade words over the security situation in Edo State.
We begin tonight from the nation's capital, Abuja, where the Nigerian Immigration Service today admitted before a federal high court that its officers indeed replaced the lost international passport of Justice Sylvester Ngwuta without reasons to doubt the affidavit evidence presented by the justice. But the immigration was also quick to reveal that Justice Ngwuta did not report back to the service when he allegedly found his missing passport. Justice Ngwuta was among 7 judges who were arrested between October the 7th and 8th, 2016, after the State Security Service SSS raided their homes in what it termed a sting operation. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafor, was at the court session and now reports.
It's the resumed trial of Justice Sylvester Ngwuta, who is standing trial for money laundering and breach of public trust. The trial continued with the cross-examination of a prosecution witness, Mr. TANKO KATANA, an officer of the Nigerian Immigration, who conducted a forensic analysis of the diplomatic and standard passports belonging to the Supreme Court Justice. Mr. KATANA, who was cross-examined by counsel to Justice Ngwuta, Mr. Kanu Agabi, told the court that the immigration rules made allowance for genuine mistakes, but in the instant case, the defendant cannot be said to have made a genuine mistake. The witness, however, informed the court that his forensic report showed that Justice Ngwuta was using the 2 standard passports interchangeably at the time of his arrest on October 7th, 2016 by the operatives of the Department of State Services. Mr. Katana said ordinarily Justice Ngwuta ought to have returned the recovered passport to the Immigration Service when it was found. The witness, who confirmed that 4 diplomatic passports and 2 standard passports were found in the possession of the defendant, said that his forensic analysis on the 6 passports did not show evidence of forgery. In his words, "I did the analysis on the 6 passports to determine whether there was forgery, and by the time I concluded my analysis of the passports, I found no evidence of forgery in any of them." He added that there are circumstances under which a citizen can have more than 1 passport, but not 2 of the same passports at the same time, as in the instant case.
Assuming that they made a mistake in traveling with an old passport, what is the offense? What did they do wrong? Why are they making this into this big issue that he traveled with an old passport?
What was expected of him was for him, now that he found that passport, to declare it, to report it, and declare it to the National Immigration Service. But he didn't do that. He continued to hold his passport and be using them interchangeably.
The case has been adjourned to October 20th, 2017 for continuation of trial. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Hopes of getting further insight into the controversy raised by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachiku's leaked memo, were dashed as the minister did not speak about his meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. Besides the meeting with the minister, the president played host to the Chief Justice of the Federation and other justices of the Supreme Court with a charge that they come up with initiatives that will speed up dispensation of justice and decongest the prisons. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra now reports.
The highly anticipated meeting between the Minister for State Petroleum, Mr. Ibe Kachukwu, and President Muhammadu Buhari finally took place today. The minister came in at about 11:33 in the morning and walked straight into that meeting. And when he emerged about an hour, 20 minutes later, this is all he has to say to reporters.
Minister, thank you. You just had a meeting with Mr. President. What did you discuss?
No comments.
The group managing director of the state-owned NNPC, who is indicted in Mr. Kachukwu's leaked communication with the president, was also at the presidential villa. He also did not say a word. It was, however, a different story when the nation's justices, led by the Chief Justice of the Federation, came calling. They exchanged pleasantries with their host. Thereafter, the president congratulated the Chief Justice on his confirmation, then makes a case for special courts in the prisons for speedy dispensation of justice.
In their various jurisdictions, one or more courts as special courts to speedily try corruption and financial crime cases, and for Supreme Court and Court of Appeal to fix special dates each week for hearing and determining appeals from special courts.
The president once again laments the absence of savings on the part of the past administrations.
Nigeria has never realized so much resources since our independence. Never. Because the average production, go to any renowned financial or economic institution in the world, they know Nigeria produces an average of 2.1 million barrels a day from 1999 to 2014. As the average cost of $100 per barrel. But when we came in, it crashed to 37. And we looked for savings, there was no savings.
The Chief Justice of the Federation expressed gratitude to God for the president's recovery and gave some assurances.
To let you know that we are happy, we are glad you are back, and that we will continue to pray for your full recovery, for your good health, and then to reassure you that we will continue to do our best.
President Buhari said his administration increased budgetary allocation to the judiciary in the 2017 appropriation in appreciation of the challenges of the sector, with a call on the Attorney General of the Federation to take up the issues of welfare of judicial officers with the Salaries and Wages Commission. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
Dr. Kachukwu, regarding his leaked letter to the president, has not in any way swept the matter under the carpet, as more Nigerians are still reacting. A former president of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengusin, Mr. Pt.1, believes the bureaucratic process of operations between the NNPC and the Petroleum Ministry has created a conflict of interest. On the other hand, the Vice Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Upstream, Honorable Mark Billa, explained that the National Assembly's responsibility in the whole matter is to protect the country's interests. Both men were guests on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
Conflict of interest there. Ordinarily, the Minister of State is supposed to supervise the NNPC. By law, because I've always talked about the need that because people are benefiting from it at the top, nobody's really looking at the working structure of NNPC. Now, the same minister is the chairman of NNPC board. So the minister who is supposed to regulate, supervise, and oversee what is going on in NNPC is now also part of decision-making process of NNPC. Now you have a conflict of interest there. So the GMD runs NNPC day-to-day management. He comes to the board, he meets his ministers. Why do you have these checks and balances? The checks and balances is to correct any error And we are not saying anybody is corrupt, but the first thing is that you do everything possible to mitigate whatever may follow. And that's why you have these various checks. So the GMB makes whatever proposal he's going to make, it goes to the board. And the board says, this is the direction we are going to go. And then it now goes to the minister, and the minister takes it over to the president. So these various checks are supposed to protect the country.
It is about protecting the mainstay of our economy. It is about enhancing the reforms in that sector. And it is about protecting the interests of this country and her citizens. So definitely, it's a concern for us. And my appeal and our appeal to all those involved is to realize that this is beyond individuals. We expect and we're sure there's going to be a response soon from the president himself, who is the substantive minister in this regard. You know, so definitely we are expecting him to respond, because these are very weighty issues that obviously would require investigation. So perhaps he will tell the country what steps he has put in place to commence his own investigation, while we, the executive, who also have legislative oversight over the executive, can proceed with our own processes as well.
Moving on to the courts, where the trial of the former governor of Oyo State, Rashidi Ladoja, for alleged money laundering reopened today at the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos. Alhaji Ladoja and his co-accused, Alhaji Wahid Akombi, who was a former commissioner of finance in the state, are facing an 8-count charge of allegedly converting 4.7 billion naira belonging to the government of Oyo State to their personal use. Other allegations are conversion of 1.9 billion naira for personal use, removal of 600,000 pounds from the state coffers in 2007, conversion of 42 million naira for personal use, and the conversion of 728 million naira and another 77 million naira for personal use. He is also accused of transferring 77 million naira to Bistrom Investment. The former governor has pleaded not guilty to the charges, and the trial judge, Justice Mohammed Idris, has adjourned sitting till October the 9th for presentation of some documents as exhibit. Meanwhile, a former Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, Patrick Akpolo-Kemi, will know his fate on October the 16th, when the Federal High Court, also in Lagos, will decide on whether or not to discharge him of a 2.6 billion naira fraud charge. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had on December the 4th, 2015, arraigned Mr. Akpolo-Kemi alongside 5 others for allegedly diverting 2.6 billion naira from the coffers of NIMASA between December 2013 and May 2015. The anti-graft agency claims the funds were approved by former President Goodluck Jonathan for the implementation of a security project tagged International Ship and Ports Security Code in Nigerian ports. But the defendants have pleaded not guilty to the charges. The alleged offense contravenes Section 8 of the Advanced Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act of 2006. To security matters, Nigeria and the United Kingdom have enjoyed a cordial relationship for several decades, not only because Nigeria was once a British colony, but because Britain has always played a big brother role to Nigeria at all times. Now Britain is again pledging its commitment to support Nigeria in the fight against terrorism with world-class military expertise. This assurance is coming from the UK's Minister for Armed Forces, Mark Lancaster, who is visiting Nigerian military training camps in order to further strengthen the defense ties between both countries. Mr. Lancaster's message was delivered by the head of training unit, Major Willie Huberon, in Makurdi, the Benue State capital.
This training is to develop basic military skills that all professional infantry units and brigades require. So we're here to work with the Nigerian Army on their basic military skills, their basic infantry skills, and try and impart some of our experience from operations. We're looking at life-saving skills, so medical training, we're looking at counter-ID training, and we're looking at basic infantry skills that will save and protect life.